Won't be watching Married at First Sight. I
think that's corrupt.
Good evening,
Good
everybody.
evening, James, how are you?
Welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud. I say that again. Thundercloud. I'm spraying it like that's what thunderclouds do. My mum calls me James. Welcome to everybody in Facebook and YouTube land and the rest of the world out there in Berlin to Montana to
Paris to Ireland.
and Bendigo.
Bendigo.
Yeah.
Mullumbimby.
Yeah, Ben Lomond and everywhere else in between, and all the way to Nimbin even. Begin the night with acknowledging country and that we're on banned by Camilla land, and acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. And this week was an anniversary of the apology by Kevin Rudd to the stolen generations, and I'll be doing some poetry by a couple of First Nations writers, Norm Newlin and Kevin Gilbert, who was of that stolen generation. But first, one of my own. This one's called Ant Music. Ant music is so very quiet. You can hear it on a moonlit night when the ants dance and sing. It lifts the moods and many things. Ant music has ant guitars and is played in most ant bars, and ant musicians wear ant pants and they love to dance and dance. Ant musicians play in bands, play instruments with ant hands. Ant musicians listen to Queen. They play Bohemian Rhapsody real mean. Ant music is loved by ants. Ants in fancy dance pants dance. But ant music you'll rarely hear except on the quietest day of the year. Ant music played in the ant mound, ant music in ants around sound. Ant music is so very quiet. Listen to ant music on a quiet moonlit night.
What's full moon? Is that tomorrow, mate?
Could be tonight.
Could be soon.
It's tonight. Today's tomorrow.
Today,
Right, thank you.
but it's looking good.
The answer will be
It's already
damned.
done. It'll be.
It's full moon tonight.
Yes,
Yes,
tonight,
well, it's already done. That was done this afternoon at 4 o'clock.
Oh, we missed it.
Well, it's the full moon. We're not
So this is Norm Newlin's book,
Better turn every so often.
Where There's Life, There's Spirit.
What was his story? Where was he from?
Okay, Norm had been writing poetry for 3 years when this was published. Based the book on his life and his experiences. He wrote his first poem to avoid writing an essay while studying at Sydney College of Advanced Education.
Oh,
Anything else about him? No, I'll just get straight into it.
that's good, isn't it? Writing an essay. and
The Sanctimonious Bastard.
Oh, that's full moon.
Big
What a sanctimonious bastard was that white man living in my hometown. Sneaking around when the shadows were down, after my mummy's moot. He'd clear his throat with a nervous cough, waiting outside the door, averting his face from the candle's glow and shuffling his feet in the dust. "Come for a walk by the river, Mary. May. There's something I want you to see. Give this loaf to the kids for a tune. You'll only be gone a while." When Mummy came back with tears in her eyes, mud on the side of her dress, she hugged me close by the fireside, and we cried all night till morn. To see that bastard down the town, you'd think he was the mayor. Mr. This and Mr. That, as bold as bloody brass. Mummy's moot was used this way until she got a pension, some self-esteem, a place to live and be truly independent. When Mummy got buried by and by, that bastard took my hand. "A fine, fine woman your mother was, a credit to our town." They're all around in every town, these sanctimonious bastards. Yeah, thought I'd start out with a hard punch. Culture shock. Kooris suffered shock when the fleet sailed up the bay, those fetid, tattered hulks that spewed forth red-faced gubs. To see men chained together, wearing dirty, ragged clothing, flogged for some unknown reason, what a culture shock. When these so-called civilised invaders hanged the first young man, the Kooris stood and cried for him. That was culture shock. The invader ventured forth into tribal lands, fenced it in for stock, poisoned waterholes and rivers, and ravished this fair land. Truly culture shock. Today, when gubs take Kooris from the bush, put them in the cities, in a flash commission house, they still get culture shock. If you've never had bills like gas, electric and rent, boy, you'd get culture shock.
Yes.
And finally from Norm, respect. Did you see that red trail bike rolling up St Mary's steps, speeding down the long wide aisle, doing wheelies around the altar? The rider used a spray can to write his name upon the front before he pissed in it. He left his empty cans and mess about for someone else to clear. Does this scene turn your guts, make your temper flare, wish that you caught this guy and kick his bloody ass? Well, that's the sort of thing that happens to our sites. So, you know just how we feel when you visit our sacred sites. Have respect for ancient things, with some mutual understanding and a little bit of love. We could stop the media having field days whenever things go wrong. So Norm Newlin, from Where There's Life, There's Spirit, published in 1989 from, don't know, it doesn't say which press. It must be an independently published book. Now, Child's Dreaming by Kevin Gilbert. He was born in 1933, passed in 1992. He was of the Wiradjuri tribe, and he was stolen from his parents when he was young and put into care. And then he managed to escape that orphanage and grew up on the banks of the river with his extended family. He spent time in and out of prison, and that's where he started writing his poetry. I've only got a few out of here. The first one, Hear the Lilt of Laughter. And this, by the way, the name of the book is called Child's Dreaming. So we've got to get a bit lighter now, and that's where we're going. Hear the lilt of laughter of the children while in school they're tracking platypus down by the swimming pool. The children saw Mum Turtle's tracks that led them to her eggs. A little further on they found Blue Tongue, who has short legs. As they studied further, looking at the trees, they saw the scratch tracks made by Will-Eye Possum's sharp and shiny claw. They saw where Old Crow had his lunch of some old piece of meat and running tracks of marsupial mouse that Dingo tried to eat. And then on the horizon, they saw a rainbow gleam and listened to the legend of what made rainbow glow and beam. After lunch, they learnt to read the message of the birds and what the wind was saying, things you've never heard. They read the dancing of the ants, the flight of native bees, and what the clouds were saying high above the tall gum trees. The children found some vegetables, yam and cabbage tree. They must collect some fruit and meat and then go home to tea. They had a very busy day and learnt a lot as well. They had a corroboree dance that night with happy tales to tell. Next one here, short one of my favourites of his, Eagle. I saw Big Eagle watching me while he sat in the old gum tree. I thought, I'm glad I'm as big as me and not as big as Finch. Child's dreaming. Within our hands, caress enfolds as dreamings flow to love and teach and guide the soul and heart. In all the sacred things that we hold dear and wisdom in our heritage impart. Wood spider. I am a wood spider. I have 8 eyes. It's true. 1 to look at magpie, 1 for kangaroo, 1 for jiri, girraw and old emu, 2 for mopoke in the night, and 1 to wink at you. Like pretty good. We've got like enough people here today. Yeah. And the last one from Kevin Gilbert. Wallabies. Wallabies like me cannot ski or go for a toboggan ride. We get cold feet from the snow and the sleet, so we find a rock cave and we hide. All right. And that's it from Kevin Gilbert and Norm Newlin. And the first person I'm going to invite up is Saul Caferella. Come on down or come on up. Yeah. This is your chance on The Price Is...
Iambic pentameter. Hi, Facebook land. This is this is one I wrote when I was about 17. Had a girlfriend who lived up behind the cemetery, so I have to go and walk through the cemetery all the time.
She wasn't a girlfriend.
Absolutely. Okay. It's called Night Fright Might Bite. Now, I wrote the first part of this, we got a band and we do this as a song. So I'm sort of doing it. But my friend, once I gave him this and I said, oh, here's just a little snippet of stuff, and he wrote the second half of it. And it's a bit more full on than my half. And then I've got another one that he wrote. I'm going to do his stuff tonight. Okay. Night fright might bite. Walking through the graveyard in the middle of the night. Your body is set to tremble. Your mind so full of fright. You think the tombs are moving. Yeah, they very well might. But the dead are living peacefully. It's the living that'll bite. I wonder what it's like to live where dead ones hold a throne. To lie beneath a marble tomb in a place I must call home. Spectres, wraiths, phantoms are not the ones to dread. Ghosts or ghouls or goblins or apparitions with no head. You better sleep with one eye open when you're cosy in the bed. It's the living that are dangerous. I'm sure it's not the dead. There's a bit more. Who knows what is lurking in the shadow of your mind? Who's that tall dark stranger creeping, skulking up behind? You can test your mettle, still your nerve, but I think that you'll find the twilight's deep within us all, and sometimes not so fine. I wonder who your friends are. What was it my mother said? Everyone's a book of blood, son. When we're open, we're all red. So you'd better sleep with one eye open while you're cosy in your bed. It's the living that are dangerous. I'm sure it's not the dead. Not the dead. Okay, now this one's one that he wrote, and it's based on a popular sort of cult figure that we all know and love. Yeah, you know, lots of movies, he's in heaps of movies, and you'll recognise it. Do you want to be a spy? A 007, concealed and out of sight? I'll be your undercover agent with a loaded weapon and play subterfuge tonight. Do you want to be a spy? We'll go incognito, dress to kill, alright. If you see Q, tell M I'm going in. Tell M I'm going in with a license to thrill tonight. I'll be your 00 agent. I'll be your backdoor man for a secret rendezvous. Espionage is the name of the game, and my mission is to uncover you. I'll penetrate your secret hideaway, tie you up, knock down, infiltrate you, investigate you. Be sure to have my wetsuit on. I got my Walter PPK, so we'll drink martinis till the break of day, shaken and not stirred, intoxicate you, then subjugate you. Got the gadgets, if you've got the nerve.
Woo! Oh, yeah, loving it. Loving it. Sorry.
Cybernetic
You get me all turned on there, because my name's James. James, not Bondage. Oh, well, look.
It's actually James Bondage. Yes. I forgot my last verse here. It goes, I'll penetrate your secret hideaway, tie you up, not down, infiltrate you, investigate you. Be sure to have my wetsuit on. My name's Bondage. James Bondage. I didn't write my number on it.
Okay. What is it? 045 something 007, yeah? All right, yes, the Festival of Small Halls is coming to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame on the 3rd of March. The Festival of Small Halls is run by Woodfordia, which is the NFP that runs the Woodford Folk Festival up there in Queensland in Woodford. And every year they take some of their artists around to small halls throughout Australia. And the summer tour for 2022 is coming here to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And it's featuring on the 3rd of March Karen Lee Andrews and Juzzy Smith. And the support act is a local band called Mother of Ducks, a real new up-and-coming surprise, that one. Mother of Ducks, yeah. But Karen Lee Andrews and Juzzy Smith, they're coming here the 3rd of March. Tickets $25, 20 for a concession, and 15 for under 17, 16 and down. So, yeah. And then on 9th of April, the Armidale, the Chamber Choir from Armidale, the Fiore Musicale are coming up here, and they've got a special conductor coming all the way up. But I'll have to get more information on that. That's the 9th of April. The end of May, we've got the Soul Express, a cabaret here put on by Arts Northwest Pocket Productions, and they tour around small places around. And then in October this year, we've got a poetry workshop weekend happening as well, run through Arts Northwest. Sorry. The New England Writers Centre, Lynn Asper, that's right, is coming here as well. And also open up to any other suggestions for bands or events, or anyone out there in the internet world who wants to come and play the biggest hall, the biggest theatre in all of New England here in Guyra at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. It's your opportunity. Yeah. So on that note, I'm going to invite, I think Ashley's up next. Thank you, Ashley. Ashley Albanese.
Well, I've got a special box now for my three rulers, so that I'm ruled by the box. Hypothesis, implication, and the one I've had the courage to take out of its jacket, parameters. I love them very much, my three rulers. I'll start with a song about threes, about triadics. A friend of mine, just before he died, he wrote this, and I thought it could go into musical form very easily. There's a picture of my friend, very famous character on the New England, Andrew Philip McHugh, musician and dramaturge of genius, no doubt, and sadly missed. He wrote this just before his denouement, and as I said, I thought it would be excellent in that form, the form of song. And then I have a lament of John and Ono's to read also. You see, it only goes to show you should have one book for everything, and you should march through it sequentially. Otherwise you'll end up like Ashley Albanese. Now, here it is. Trinity, a sonnet by Andrew. I thought I had a soul, but it had me for all eternity. Dying I'd expect to cease to be, but for a soul that's me, but outlives me. Able to be me when I'm not there, at once it is my will, as well my heir. At best my soul's heart, I guess, I'm at one with it, or even less. So to say, 'tis selfless by design. When I am yours, my soul would then be mine. Maybe that's why it takes are 2 or 3 gathering for the third of Trinity. Oh, can't do else but be a thing forgiving. Soul overflows the edge of living. I thought I had a soul, but it had me for all eternity. Dying I'd expect to cease to be, but for a soul that's me, but outlives me. Dear old Andrew virtually wrote that in his deathbed. That was his farewell to us. A soul that's there for giving. Now, I'll finish with my mate Bazza. And it's rather not forgiving this. This actually exists. I haven't invented crisis casting. Wish I had. Bazza! He didn't look at me. We'd just been indulging in fried rice wrapped in seaweed. Bazza had wandered up then from the tankui. He calls it tankui, as he calls it. Bazza loves his love for Japanese food is a salient aspect of the Baz. Baz, I reiterated, Baz loves to talk about iterations. He says, laying down the law as he goes along. Jono, I'm thinking of going in for crisis casting. I wondered what he was about this particular afternoon as we cooed past the Tanku. I pretended I knew whence he referred. Will we be driving to the gorge country for some fishing then? Then he looked at me. We were seated outside of the old Beatty Street courthouse. By that time, Bazza had his laptop open to the knee, and I was contemplating the Coca-Cola cans, logo of red and silver amongst the empty blanket of detritus and dead leafage piling up from the mall trees in between the posts, or columns, as the burghers once referred to them. The 1870 architectonics of justice on our uprearing granite tableland were in my mind as I looked towards the Bazza in his laptop, wondering what he was about. And to what did he refer with crisis casting? No line, hooks or bait involved. I am not entering a fishing competition. No, I have here from California no less than a contract for crisis casting. How do you get exactly into that line of work? Basil went on, well, I'm aiming. I expected Basil to pull out his green-covered Gideon's Bible at this point, and apt line quote to me, and sundry passing by, as he likes to stand near that old Celtic cross and deliver sermons to the lunch hour traffic. We're within metres of where Bazzo delivers such, these homilies to the good burghers of Armdale on occasion, and for occasion. I'm applying, for a government grant from ScoMuMo's government to develop a crisis casting media unit. One or a dozen, I thought. Well, a crisis casting media unit here on the tableland. It entails, he went on, archiving and preparing crisis casting modules. The modules, I thought, but Basil ignored my expostulation. Crisis management involves acting out socio-political jams, so to speak. Interviews, videos, reportage, ahead of time, ahead of great political action. They can be done, jobs for unemployed, actors, actresses, makeup artists, autopsy experts. I wondered at that. Body limb experts. I kept wondering. Bazza the Baz had ticked my curiosity. I imagined a new envisionment, an improved projection floating aloft. I saw dirigibles on the sunset horizon, Armadale Dirigible Hostelry Association bedecking their elongated vast cigar-shaped signs. The glory of it, the messaging to all of us New England folks. But no, Bazza enthused. Crisis casting is ahead of time. Efficiency, live and end. Don't you mean dividend, not live and end, Baz? No, I'm coming to that. Look, I looked down, then into the techno-electro pool of screen pixelating before me. You see those bodies? You mean, Baz, lying around there looking mangulated? Exactly, went on Baz. I'm wanting to rehearse a professional team who can prepare media crisis casting, as they've been doing for some decades now in the States, to beam straight to air so mums and dads and grannies too, can be safe in the safety of their lounge and exactly see how safe they are, and support our efforts to inform them with this imagery by large or small screen in time, real time of the terrorist, the pervert, the bomber, the bodies bloodied, fallen in the struggle of our freedoms. So, I went on to Baz, he was getting wound up. You mean you'll be banking up before time's reproductions of warlike disasters, before they happen, like our library ready to go beaming out. As the blood's spattering, you'll have an image of it prepared. Yes, John and Ono. It's a public service to all of us, for all of us. A rough equivalent, on time, ahead of time, as it is, as it were, so the audience have a vivid sense of the horror. I went on, well, that's it, Jono. No. We're helping them to understand. To cope with, I said, yes, the horribilities. Is there such a word, Baz, as horribilities? Should be. Baz felt confident of receiving a grant from Canberra, especially as the project, Crisis Casting, was part of the United States systemic messaging program of the US government, international rules-based ordering of order, as it were. Baz was now in mid-flight. So many actors on New England with correct training, lots of stretching. Stretching's necessary for crisis casting, necessary in lines and layers of specialist makeup, can leave a perfectly cadaverous impression. Bazza himself, being a home cameraman, knew all the tricks, angles and styles. To make 100 stiffs look like 1,000. He lovingly described how the eastern end of the mall could be tableaued and recorded as if a grisly bombing had just taken place. In the instantaneity of it, boom, 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 he went. It'd taken place, rivulets of blood, as if they were streaming down towards the old Westpac Bank. Limbs higgledy, scattered all akimbo, Bassett said limbs could be, and railed from Sydney to help bring very similar similitude to portrayal of atrocity. Strange way Bassett had of pronouncing the word verisimilitude. So I imagined trainloads of artificial limbs coming up to be warehoused near the old Teachers' College. Remember, minutes back, Mrs. Pope's nephew, Bassett went on, Schmedley, sauntered past us? I did. Did you notice, he went on, the front of the Telegraph, that headline he was perusing? No, of course, John and No. You had your bird brain focused on yourself as usual. At that, I imagined birds taking off from Mother of Duck Lagoon. Sorry, Bazza, I intoned. I'm sorry. It said, the headline, Bazza trembled, terrorist strike kills more than one. Our duty is to magnify the scale, showing our correspondent believes, wonderful, I went, wonderful, the word, the concept of belief. I believe, as I went, that hundreds may have died, could die, in minutes, or was it sex, Schmedley? Time was always oddly elastic when one was in the company of Baz the Baz, when he was in his messianic flight. Impassionment, Baz would call it, impassionment. Smedley stood before us. Yes, his jeans had as many holes as the half couple of girls who'd idled by but minutes before. Schmedley, Bazza opined, I have a job for you. Schmedley really reacted, a job's a job. Let us work forward towards the frontier. It will involve roles of security officer, warehouse management and actor. Schmedley looked transfixed. Did Baz misspeak? Did I hear wrongly? Did he actually say whorehouse management? Because Schmedley went into quite a quiver. Hear the word whorehouse and whorehouse away he went. We aim to make Armidale the centre of Australasian crisis casting. Smedley on the instant lay down, foot pointing towards the old Gaelic crossroads crossed. Smedley, are you portraying for Baz? No, John, no. I'm a stiff, he said from the concrete floor. Whorehouse or warehouse, I'm in perfect sync with Baz's ideas. In fact, I was hoping to see you two on the way back up the mall. I've been printing off from a Chicago site an alternative franchise for crisis cast contracts. Futurologists, we will be called Futurologists of the West, preparing presentations of tomorrow's dilemmas today. Do you get that? Futurologists of the West, preparing presentation of tomorrow's dilemmas for today. Basil looked down at Smedley, supine before him. I tried not to. There is sadly such a thing as crisis casting. You sign up for it in the US. You have to go through quite a project.
Before Gladys comes up, I'll tell you about my favourite animal. I think that a unicorn is my favourite animal, although I've never seen one.
Why not?
No matter how far or wide I search, no matter how far I jump or how fast I run, I've looked high and low, mountains and valleys, but I've never seen a unicorn in a zoo or the wild, no matter how far that I've been. And on that, Gladys Wilson, come on up.
I have. I've seen unicorns.
Dr. Will Jones does these things. I'm right, James?
Yeah, sure.
Well, this is the gum tree's lament. I am a precious old gum tree. I've lived here for more than 100 years or so and faced all kinds of weather with wind, rain and snow. I once felt quite at home on this land where I still dwell, but please take a moment of your time. My sad story I will tell. As you know, many trees were all around me, but sadly they are gone. Their stumps still surround me, where once they all proudly stood upon. As I stand alone in the moonlight, with my leaves all a silvery glow, and dream of the days when I was a young gum tree, all those years ago. Back then I stood so proud and tall, and was a treasure to behold, but the sound of chainsaws now just makes my sap run cold. You may think of me as no longer useful, and my days are nearly done, but I've sheltered you many times from the blazing sun. I give refuge to the weary stock as they rest beneath me every night, and flocks of birds now nestle on my branches after their morning flight. But I beg of you, my good friend, to spare me a little thought as you glance at my ragged old body where many battles have been fought. Of course, I'm not what I used to be, but surely I can trust that you will not cut me down and turn me into sawdust. As my roots all start to tremble now with weakened branches hanging low, and still I dread to think of that terrible day when I may have to go. As I wake up each morning and thankfully take another breath, I pray that you will leave me here just to die a natural death. Now looking to my future, whatever that may be, but I always will remain a precious old gum tree.
Isn't it like the old gum trees are the ones with character? Like the new ones, they just grow straight and tall and they just drop a few branches and they look pretty straight and tall. But the old ones have got character, you know, they're gnarled and they've got hollows in them and broken off branches and they look much cooler, hey?
It's such an irony because in
Japan, of course, bonsais, they try and make
them look old.
Make them look old.
Right. Well, before we get George up here, I'm going to tell you about the flute of Bliglash. Oh, yeah. The flugel of Bliglash. In the flugel of Bliglash, the Greolocket crashed. Walkling sliffishly ze klebim the drosh. Grably ended zim, hoffingly zock. Hollack hast broidered. Twad chicka's plock. Twad chicka can sport ze plock avec Christus ze brustumd klept whilst dressed up in flistest. But Greolocket noticed. And klebim ze plock avec ze broidered, sliffishly broidered hoch. Christus bump bracken twad chica replocker greoloptica reclaimant zinst the poet jockey. Avex and mugglin, bugratcha slap, ze farkly in your plaid, pluckities up. Flistus has soft, ze clepting and whoosting, summons it hollack and greolopter, sliffishly whoosting, tall ended sliffishly, triffingly hastock. Doc Nifford, Nemronically, Lagfart, till plucked was ended from Gravely, and strongingly through, days and dark, overgone, all bristly through. In the flugel of Bliglash, the gleal up the crash, walkling sliffishly, the clip in the drosh, Gravely ended them, hoffingly zock. Hollack, hast broidered it, twad chicka's pluck. Welcome, George. Neofitou, all the way from out there. Wherever. Everywhere, man.
Now and Doc.
Now and Doc.
Could be, yeah, we've been through there. You've had your professionals, and now it's a bit of an amateur.
Oh, no.
Don't put yourself down.
Never put yourself down.
No, don't put yourself down.
I've only been paid once for doing poetry, so that only just makes me a one-time professional.
Does it have to rhyme?
No.
No, it doesn't have to rhyme. Okay, well, it's a relief. Yeah.
I've heard they pump it over.
Yeah, well, pull the camera over.
Yeah, can't see you.
There you go.
Okay. All right, well, I've just got a short writing which we put together some time ago to do with idealised living. And take it for what it is, well, see what you think. Yeah. Okay, and this is for a project we've been working on for some time, and it may blossom from here on, who knows. Okay. Gardens of orderly disorder, of exquisite beauty and culinary abundance, of wide open expanse contrasting intensive horticulture, companions of towering fertility and bushes of bountiful profusion, interlaced with populace of laughter and leisure, interchanged with joyful labour and exertion, shortest to tallest and all diversity, fresh youth to the wisdom of elders, reciprocating elements of earth, air, fire, water and ether, coexisting with technological marvels, pockets of multitudinal dwellings merged in the landscape, privacy assured, conjoined with areas of communal gathering, harmonised with cycles of the seasons, correlating life cycles of birth, growth, activity, rest and passing on, gatherings involving dialogue, practicing suspension of judgment, listening intently, identifying one's assumptions and inquiry and reflection. Web of life revealed by microscopic soil investigation. A bird's eye landscape view of complex interrelationships, living systems from micro to macro, interdependence of localised communities viewed from the sky, trade routes forming a collective web, a harmonious global perspective of green, white and blue, revealing the curvature of the earth. From planets to galaxies, encompassed by the one mind of God, circulating in cycles like vibration of atoms. Matter unfolding and enfolding, contemplated by our circle of communal gathering. Immersed in the joyful mystery, following our hearts, making the unknown known.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, with that, someone who doesn't need much introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. Steve Wordsmith, 2021 Living Legend of Australian Poetry here in the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame.
Thank you, James. It's always wonderful to be here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. What a place to be and to follow George like that. Inspiring, mate. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. When the fires of inspiration are ignited and the poetic words start to flow like the rapids in the mountain and the imagination grows, don't damn the flow of magic. Be inspired by every word. Let's use the words we are given to instigate the change of logic that is needed in these times and voice the inspiration from our inner higher self and realise our real eyes. And know that we have got this. Be inspired by every word. Words of poetry, it's always good, isn't it? Words of poetry and the words that are given to us by the Spirit is always a fabulous place to be. Because that's why, I make the statement often. If people listen to poets rather than politicians, we might be going okay. Because we listen to the Spirit. And that's the Spirit makes us wise in their words. We're limited to 3 poems, so I'm going to hit you with a few small ones and 3 short ones at this time. It's all a tale of a river. It's told by a man in a dream. The dream was inspired by the Sovereign Lord, and it's a blessing for you and for me. This river, it enters the ocean. The fresh washes away the saline and the brine. Yes, stagnant waters start flowing, and there's creatures of many species and kind. On the banks of the river grow orchards, fruit trees of many a kind, and they'll produce on a monthly basis as the fresh replaces the brine. You can paddle in up to your ankles, you can wade in up to your knees, but it's better to go right in to be purified and to be clean. We always sort of get some of these little ones washed up and around, don't we, See, when the God of all creation sent his one, his only son, I wasn't even thought of when they said he was the one. When he turned the water into wine and he touched the blind man's eyes, when he walked upon the waters, it was way before my time. And the thorns were digging in his head and they spat upon his face with eyes so deep he looked at them and he shone with all his grace. He's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. And even back 2,000 years, he was thinking of us. Then. It was said that he was an outlaw and he roamed across the land with a band of unskilled ruffians and a few old fishermen. No one knew from where he came or exactly what he'd done, but they thought it must have been something bad to keep him on the run. Some say he was a poet. He made a stand upon the hill and his voice could calm an angry crowd and make the waves stand still. He spoke in many parables that few could understand, and people sat for hours just to listen to this man. Some say a politician because he spoke of being free. He was followed by the masses on the shores of Galilee. He spoke loud against corruption and vowed to no decree. But they feared his strength and power, so they nailed him to a tree. Some say he was a son of God, a man above all men, but he came to be a servant and to set us free from sin. And that's who I believe he was, because that's who I believe. And if you believe in Jesus Christ, it's nearly time for him to leave. Now, it's interesting, we tell many tales of these religious viewpoints and such, and the religious dogma is the one that takes us down the wrong track. There were special messages brought by the truth and by the Spirit of the divine. And when we look at the scriptures and it talks about omnipotent and omnipresent, well, that means he's in all powerful and he's all potent, and he's in you and he's all around you and he's all powerful. May the world be a better place because poets are in it. Thank you.
Oh, Steve, now before I invite one of our newer poets up, James, here's my serious one for the night. This was written 2 hours ago. It was, there's a bit of a prelude to it, a foreword. Now, of the 200 wealthiest economies in the world, 157 of them are corporations. That makes 43 nation states. Of the 200 wealthiest entities in the world, Australia ranks 10th. Now, the top 10 are actually nations, and then we go down into Australia number 10 and some big corporations. There's a bit more background to this that you might not know or might know. In Haiti, the island of, the people there are in such poverty that they eat mud cakes. Now, I'm not talking about a chocolate mud cake or a caramel mud cake. They actually get mud and they put it into a patty and they cook mud up and they eat these mud biscuits. So this one's called Distribution. Less than $1 a day works 12 hours a day. Less than a teenager mines coltan for smartphones and iPads. $600 a fortnight watches 12 hours per day, more than a teenager, of Netflix and Facebook. Less than $1 a day eats 1 meal per day, never complains, smiles. $1,000 per hour, frowns 7 days a week, has holidays at $1 per hour. What determines worth? Time, date and place of birth? 157 of the richest 200 entities are now corporations, not government. Sweatshop employee makes footballs, 12 hours per day, no after-school sport, no school, no soccer mum, no RV, no Nike sneakers. $10,000 per hour makes life difficult 24/7 for $1 per day and $600 a fortnight. Eats caviar and truffles, you can bank on it. Let them eat cake, bread, starch, rice, maize. $10 million per hour, ejaculates rockets to the stratosphere filled with rare earth minerals mined for less than $1 per day. Wipes up his ejaculate with gold-threaded handkerchief. Robots are paid nothing, eat nothing, drink a bit of hydraulic fluid. $600 per week eats what they can afford after the bills are paid. An Amazon worker eats a Big Mac and a Coke, and a Haitian child eats a mud cake. It's called distribution. Now I know there's been a bit of talk about the Great Reset, but there's also one of the biggest problems in this world is this distribution of income and wealth caused by institutionalising structural violence, in that we've got an Australian dollar, they've got an American dollar, they've got a Haitian whatever, and they're all worth different values, and that's how the big institutions, the banks, play off all these nations to get these people to do that for that much. So perhaps a world currency, or one world global currency, but not a digital one, but one with cash that still allows sovereignty of the individual, would be a big solution to what I've just pointed out there. Right, James, come on up.
Hello everyone. I was going to start with the Tom Sardi, but since we've been done that, just go for a few of my own tonight. So this one's kind of self-titled, or first line titled. Read between the lines to see what it defines. Absent in impression, leaving no depression, false in its oppression, leading you to nothing, what you aren't told, lack of want for caring, ideas free to fold, guided by what isn't there. Take your own ride, pay your own fare. Wave stuck in the tide, wind apart from there. Idle all along the side, down the line tear. Shrill winds whisper, words beneath the view, as a dream floats on a cloud and past the heavens flew. A truth so mysterious it shines, ignoringly evade the signs. The ever-present elusively pines, for riches not found in mines. Are you that lucky? These are a couple of shorter, more recent ones I wrote when I was in Nepal. Sail, sold, what am I selling? Everything I don't want, a tale told in the telling, strangely simple, birth of a font. Pushing to pull me out of orbit, waiting to see a counter forfeit. So lackluster in wanting to go, stay half a while for the northern show. Timely arrivals and departures yet near, one wish to celebrate a roundabout cheer. Do I really attract all this? A point I want to almost miss. Supposed to be fun, always bliss. Hearken to a raven as shadows hiss. So one to be outside, escape from a reflection. Past the point of changing, yet another direction. While away the days, searching for an hour. Want to have it says, not within my power.
Thank you, James. Wonderful. Yeah, it's getting hot in here, and now things are really heating up, and we welcome Doug to the stand.
Good evening. I've got two here. Am I allowed to have two?
3 if you want.
Two's enough. You won't have enough by then. Aye, go easy on yourself. Okay. This one's got a bit of scribble on it, so there'll be a few hiccups. I'm an amateur, or I believe I'm a learner in quite amazed at some of the poetry that's read here. Anyway, I've got two. This one's mine, and the next one's about a very controversial topic. The next one's about love.
Don't know about that.
And I ain't no expert.
I'm sorry, Ashley, we love you.
Bring it on. Okay. The title of this is Pressure. And I'm impressed with how people read their poems. I don't know, I'm looking for the way to read these bloody things, not just writing. Anyway, my next rhyme may offer you not so much at all, especially guaranteed. The great unknown reeks of nothing for sure. Don't ask me to predict or see. I think that's a rhyme. How's the pressure, friend Garvin would call? This question is pressure I can't answer at all. My blood flow is pressured. Now and then, must stop eating crap again. Turn pressure cooker up, the veggies are hard. Pressure 30,000 feet essential for life. Pressure to live is always to give. The pressure's always building great. Will poem come and give me sight? Is that a word?
Yes.
Thank you. Good boy. This hard and steel-bound boiler case needs easing from inside. I meditate, I wink, not think. I let my day evolve. Don't let my head revolve. Just breathe with what you're given. Simplify your living. Please gently step another inch along the path that shows. I cannot and I must not force. Hey, the pressure valve is dropping. I'm an amazing human being incarnate here by choice. I'll give myself a well-earned hug for not completely stopping.
Bertolt Brecht lives again. The bush Brecht.
Now, I've got a little one here. Now, this is a net like I've heard James. Now, let's give background. I read this book. I was living, forgive me for living in a UFO museum in the United States, but I did. It's the only place I had to go. I had no money and they put me up. And I met and read a lot of interesting people and books and CDs and movies and stuff. Anyway, this is a book I read and it touched my heart because it sounded so real. It's about and this is going to maybe freak you a little, but it's about a UFO visitation to Italy in the 60s, 1960s. Something like 200 ETs, if you want to call them that, integrated with a small community and lived with them for a couple of years. And this was written about by this guy, or one of the people wrote about it. His name is Stefano Brescia, Breccia, you can look him up. And he wrote a book called Amicizia, Amicizia. And in some sort of language, that means friendship. And that's the message they got from these visitors, friendship. Anyway, this guy that wrote the book, this is the last few lines of his book, and I'm going to quote them. He says, I believe firmly, this is about love too, sorry, you'll pick it up. I believe firmly in what I have written in my rough English. This may make someone think about himself first, then about the night sky full of stars, in order to be able to perceive the love. that moves the sun and the other stars. Translated, I don't know what to lose. But when you get this stuff, it helps you to perceive the love that moves the sun and the other stars. That really touched me. I thought I had to have physics to explain it. Anyway, the translation. L'amour chez move le cielo et l'autre stelle. The love that moves the sun and the other stars. Amen. Thank you.
Dante visits Gyra.
Hey. Well, we're nearly at the end of the night here. Well, I've got two to finish off with. Just one. This one I've used the genderless pronoun it. Instead of writing as a he or a she. Because I didn't know. Just one was a human who did what was morally right and fair. It never shaved its face, it never cut its hair, it would wake early in the morning and meditate in the sun, have a bath, eat a banana, and its name was Just One. Just One lived alone in a hut on a mountain and would dance. Just One would sing songs to the insects and some days wear no pants. It had no obligations and would go swimming just for fun. It loved a peaceful, joyful life. Its name was Just One. Okay. And the last one is a little bit of hip hop that I'm going to put to a bit of trap music, a Neofitou rhythm, an old Arabic tune, sort of slowed down, added a bit of bass to it, a few beats and stuff. So I'm going to go and hit the play button and then I'll come back and do Crisis of Spirituality for you.
Are you having a Zen moment over there, ladies? A Zen moment? You're having a moment there. I love Dante coming along tonight, don't you?
We'll get up, James.
Okay, Paul.
Keep it.
He sat upon a mountain. People thought he was cracked. How could a mountain compensate for the things he lacked? For 40 days and nights plus 40 years and 4, he sat upon the mountain and watched the valley floor, where the happy people lived and they danced and played, painted, sung, wrote poetry and enjoyed every minute of the day. He reflected on his life and asked, am I that enlightened, or am I scared of facing myself? In fact, am I quite frightened? I'll go down into that valley in just 4 more days. After 44 years and 44 days, I'm gonna change my ways. I think I'll dance, write poetry, draw, paint, do art, become the master of myself with love in my heart. Sitting on a mountain, I cannot get much gooder. Doing nothing here, like a silent Buddha. I've decided to be as multifaceted as a Shiva, not sit on some mountain like some kind of diva. There's many forms of consciousness and many different ways in the present moment. Shiva dances, sings and plays. The mountain never compensated for what I've never had. Now I've left the mountain, I feel so very joyous and glad. So from that very moment he did the things he loved, inspired by his heart, his love, and from above. He mastered everything from astral travel to Zen, and with his final breath he said, "I'll be back again. And next life I won't spend 44 years on a mount. I'll make the most of my life and make every second count. And I won't need a teacher because I will self-master and not waste my time on that mountain. What a life disaster!" Thank you very much. And, I found myself and a purpose. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Arabic Beats there on YouTube, and Nefertiti and Paul. And Paul Wood is coming up with a final to finish off for the night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thundercloud. Just give you a little tip when you're finishing a musical piece for the people, end on a major chord because that calls for applause. Now, I was again going to fanny out tonight because didn't have much prepared and I'm running out of good stuff, singing stupid friggin' songs that I don't really like or believe in, but I'm trying to sort of make up the numbers here, James. And look, I just got to say, I can't let the moment pass that I've got to congratulate Steve on his caftan. It's neither Nehru nor Kamal. It's very unique. It's sort of like Axminster carpet style. It's wondrous. Thanks, Steve. And on distribution, James, I've got to say that there was a system pre, shall we say, left-wing capitalism, which was well predicted, whereby a righteous taxation system prevented tremendous wealth. And I'd just like to mention, in passing, my hero, a great hero, probably some people rate him as the greatest Australian, a Czechoslovakian man called Egon Kisch. And he came to this country to warn of the rise of fascism in the 30s. He was prevented from landing. They gave him a Gaelic language test. Ashley knows all about it, so I've struck a person who knows the story, but I'll go into it deeper. But I just thought I'd mention that great name. A great and wondrous man. Again, a philosopher, a futurist, and someone who came with a great warning about war that would come upon the world, and was more or less prevented from talking, as people have been prevented from talking today. Yeah, the great censorship that occurred even then. Now, tonight I'm going to sing another corny sort of a hybrid song. It's not a folk song. I don't know what it is. It's a Peter Paul Mary song. It's the best I've come up with, James. I'm going to say, and I don't know it very well. You might be able to listen to the words because again, I might go a bit dry. I hope that you poets will understand. I'm not a pro singer, I'm a shit-ass singer, but I'll give it a go anyway.
You sing that all the time.
I'm an gynecologist, so no experience, so I'll have a look at it for you. This one is called. Sorry, John. This one's called Polyvon. This is a Peter Paul Mary song that everybody knows except me. I shall tell of a hunter whose life was undone by the cruel hand of evil at the setting of the sun. His arrow was loose and sped through the night, and a true love was slain as the shaft found its mark. But she'd an apron wrapped about her, and he took her for a swan. And it's so, and alas, it was she, Polyvon. He ran up beside her and found it was she. He turned away his head, for he could not bear to see. He lifted her up and found she was dead. A mountain of tears for his true love he shed. She had an apron wrapped about her, and he took her for a swan. And it's so, and alas, it was she, Polyvon. He rode her away to his home by the sea, crying, Father of fathers, I've murdered poor Polly. I've killed her for youth in the flower of her life. I always intended that she be my wife. But she'd an apron wrapped about her, and I took her for a swan. And it's so, and alas, it was she, Polyvon. By the lake where his true love was slain, he wept bitter tears, but his cries were all in vain. As he rode by the lake, a swan glided by, as the sun slowly sank in the grey of the sky. But she'd an apron wrapped about her, and he took her for a swan. And it's so, and alas, it was she, Polyvon.
Very, very mythic.
All right. Well, we're just missing Peter and Mary. Thank you, Paul. And on that light note, we'll say thank you to everyone for coming tonight. Thank you to everyone in Facebook, YouTube. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe on the button. Click on the bell thing if you're on YouTube for notifications of every Wednesday night coming up as well. And thank you everyone for coming tonight.